Welcome to Breaking Bread, hosted by me, Crunk Chocolate, a show where I break verbal bread with the quote unquote enemy, but we don't have to worry about none of that stuff because we got we got a friend, we got it's an exciting thing, we got a good person. I have a whole set of notes that I was going to say, but who's gonna screw it? Let's just say Shady Gang, welcome him in, say hello, ask if he's lost because I am kind of scared about his surroundings. Shady Gang, welcome, Dillon Meehan. How's it going, friend? How's it going? How's it going?
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to finally actually get to do one of these. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
oh,
been a while
oh,
coming. Oh, not in that
double
kind of way. No,
time.
not in that kind of way at all. No, not no shade, no shade at all
Oh no,
whatsoever.
no, oh no,
Like,
oh no, you're fine.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
there was clapping going on, and it was a little it replayed. I was like, what's going on? Uh, yeah, no, this is super excited to have you on. Get together. I was explaining pre-pod 2024. All of the people that we have yet to have on, this is what we're gonna do. We want to have them on. So shout out to people in the comments. Look, oh wow, look at this. Look at this. You are loved, my guy. You are loved, my guy. Let's go. Oh my goodness. City Xtra, a writer. Let's we always start off with the origin story of your Citydom. So let's start there before we get to you and your writing and your style and Man City and all those other things. Let's tell us about your Man City origin story. How did you become
Yeah.
a supporter of Man City?
I mean, it was back in high school, so it was like probably God, it was like 2008, 2009, like 2010ish is when I really started to have like soccer be the sport where I was like kind of starting to follow, if not the most, I was like right up there with like any of the other American sports. And so I picked City, didn't know anything about the takeover, didn't know anything about the owners. I played with them on FIFA, like that was it. Like they had the Eagle logo. This was like pre-logo change, all that kind of
Facts.
stuff. And so like the Tevez team, like with Steven Ireland, like all that. And then a couple years after, that's when the FA Cup, the Aguero Girls happened, and then from there it just kind of like immediately became the main team that I kind of cared about. And then a few years later, Pep comes in, and it's been the best ever since.
It truly has been vibes. I first found out about them in 2002, but I would say it was about 2007,
Same.
2008 is when I went all in because I was able to watch it often enough and see it enough. And because I'm sure you know, it is very difficult, all of the different uh, channels that you would have to go through to watch Premier League back then, and that, it wasn't just like on Peacock or Paramount or something like that. It was
Yeah,
very, very weird, or you had to do super sketchy streams. Streams are not as sketchy as they used to be. I mean,
yeah.
maybe they are, but I the ones that I use do not scare me as much as the ones I used. I'll even say 5, 6 years ago.
Oh yeah, I mean now it's like you don't even. I mean you technically don't even necessarily even to pay for any of these if you really want to get catch a match. But I think for me, just the incessant pop ups has caused me to finally start paying for. I think
Yes.
Peacock's pretty cheap, so it's not really not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and not to bomb everything real quick, but I'm a WWE fan, so I
Oh
use
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
also. So
Of
it works
course.
both ways. Yeah, I want to do a quick review of the City Huddersfield match, and then talk about the fourth round draw. Would like to review Man City's 5-0 win against the Terriers of Huddersfield, Goober and Gangster FC. To start with the hooliganism, was I was fearful that there was going to be some Bush League antics coming from our lower division opponents. I know from my time playing rugby in multiple divisions that like the lower division you get, that's when things kind of get chippier and just sketch and dumb decisions. People get hurt because of that. Expected people to come in with heavy tackles. Maybe the ref isn't looking, so you try to start a fight. I don't know. Just usually when you play a team in a lower or in a higher position, that's when you kind of have to like put up or shut up type of thing, that where you can't get away with all of that bush league antics. But the first half, that's really kind of all they were doing, and it was shocking. I don't know how you felt about the first half antics, so I'm going to ask you, how did you feel about Huddersfield's tactics?
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of everything to expect a lot of times when you face most of the lower league side. Sometimes you'll see people that actually come out and play. But I mean, I don't remember the player's name, but the guy that gave Rico an elbow in the back of the head before then immediately injuring Akanji with the slide tackle. That within the first 20 minutes, like it really kind of set the tone of just that, like, hey, this is not going to be, a typical Premier League game. And I don't know if you saw the clip on socials of the City fan that got hit with a glass bottle on the subway ride home. But there was it was like, I mean, it's like it wasn't even just on the pitch, like it was from the fans too. The fans booing Akanji when he was injured, like all of that of just like it very much felt like, no, this was not a friendly, even though it was obviously at the Etihad, it was not a friendly atmosphere both on the pitch or from the away section fans.
Yeah, it was awful. I don't know, because shout out to And He Takes the Chance podcast. It's a Huddersfield podcast. Had Johnny on. It was a great conversation. He seemed very nice and charming. And then the crowd starts doing what the crowd does, and then you see that video of the kid getting busted up, and it's like, whoa, what? What? Not my Johnny. Are you out there doing those things? Like, my guy. Geez, it was just terrifying. And especially also with when Red Star Belgrade came in December, and they also did very similar things where a bunch of people got hurt, with Manchester City being one of the best clubs in the world. When teams automatically know they don't stand a chance on the pitch, or at least their supporters think that they don't stand a chance on the pitch, I'm just worried that this could be something that it could become a more constant, and I don't really know how you handle that, especially because Manchester City fans, Manx in general, they're like lovers. They're like that. They might verbally try to joust with you and fight with you, but the fisticuffs, that's not really their energy. So I just worry about that. I don't even really want to get too deep into that, but it is something I want to put a bookmark on. City winning 5-0. Looking back at the game, KDB's return took most of the attention from the win against Huddersfield. 24 hours from the match. Looking back, is there any thought or something you saw from the match that you've been like marinating on, a hot take that you've just been getting to get out, or maybe you were impressed by someone other than KDB in the match?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is how Foden just continues to shine playing through the middle. I mean, just looking absolutely amazing. It's a thing I tweeted out earlier of like, it's kind of weird that all it took was like 5 starts playing centrally, and then he made 2 mistakes in the last 30 seconds against Crystal Palace for him to kind of like wake up and learn how to play the position. And then part of me almost feels like, in a way, look, Pep is way smarter than me. He's forgotten more than I'll ever know. But like, why couldn't we have done this 5 years ago? Like, why has he not been playing here since he was 18?
Maybe that's if you're the part that he forgot.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
And then, I mean, separate from that too, Oscar Bob finally showing off again. He so rarely actually gets a full 90 minutes. He was great against Red Star, scored against Red Star, was excellent again. Technically should have scored, had the own goal because it deflected off the defender. But I mean, he is so smooth on the ball. And I think that, granted, yes, that is going to be the right is kind of Bernardo's spot, or potentially Doku if he can learn how to play there. But I mean, just to have another player like Bob who can play on either the left or the right, it's going to be needed as City continue to push for all 3 competitions that they're still in this year. So I think that he was unbelievable. Yeah, KDB back. KDB looks 5 years younger with that long hair. I don't even understand it. And then Doku as well. Doku getting the goal in his first game back. It was actually a really well taken goal off the half volley too. So for him to get work on his finishing as well, it's something that you love to see.
This was the most time KDB really has had off in basically his entire adult life. That would add some years back to his life. He's smiling probably a lot more, laughing a lot more, taking less direct vitriol from Pep. That's probably good for the soul, so that's good. I am looking for it, and the energy that he brought onto the pitch the game, how it just flipped, the energy, it felt so different. We were all melting down. It was just like that video, Michael Jackson standing before the crowd and just white women are fainting and stuff like that. It's just like that was basically KDB when he ran on the pitch. I was just like, I'm freaking out, guys. Are you freaking out? I'm freaking out. It was beautiful. It very much looking forward to the rest of the season. Pep did say, take your time. So I'm interested to, because we'll do a predicted starting 11 together later, but I'm interested to see hear your thoughts about KDB and how much time he may or may not get against Newcastle. I would like to transition to transfers. Hold on. Julian's slow roll. Yes. Kind of made them focus. The slow rolling second goal. That was great. Actually, let's stick at Julian, because he was kind of struggling early on when Haaland first dropped out. Everyone kind of was struggling. Julian seems to have figured out his form recently. I believe that it's because even though he's a striker, he can't be our primary attacking target. He flourishes in that Gundo spot where he finds the half spaces. Like he knows where, okay, if that person's going there, then I need to be here. And he is fantastic at that. When Phil's doing his thing, when Daku can do his thing, or even Rodri or anybody else can do their thing, he flourishes. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Alvarez.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two things. I do think at times he has struggled since Haaland's gone out. The kid has also played so much, like jumping right from his season in River Plate into the World Cup, then into a treble campaign, shortened off season, right into this. Like so many other players on the team, I think they are just exhausted. And then the other thing as well is I'm actually curious to see what it would be like if you were to play alongside KDB. We haven't been able to see that, and I think that most strikers need some kind of like creativity in front of them. Most strikers need service. Even Haaland needs service. He just finishes every chance that you give him.
Yes.
And I think it's a thing of where, once he actually gets that service a little bit more, because I think Foden's really the only one that has been consistently able to give that creative output. Grealish hasn't really been able to find that stretch of like, I'm bringing control of the game and then I'm also going to like create. He has in batches, and we've seen Doku sometimes in batches as well. But like, other than that, it's basically just fallen on Foden and like to create. And it's his like first time he's really been cast in that kind of role. And before he was always just out wide. So I'm curious to see as KDB starts to feature a little bit more, maybe he'll start versus Newcastle. I'm not quite sure that we're there yet. I think it might be another 30-ish minutes, but I think it's a thing of where if he gets a little bit more service, and now that in January there's a little bit of a break, he's not going to be playing 3 days a week like he has been for the last like year. I think that we might start to see a little bit more out of him too.
Let's get into these comments before we move on. Some more Dillon love. Let's go. Hey, Dillon.
Oh, Jerome, what's up? Oh my God, I can't believe that you're here.
And then George, what's up? Shout out to the Banter on boys. Big fan of Alvarez. But when KDB is back, will he be the same? Yes. Are you serious? We saw it. He had a assist in what was it? In like 16 minutes back. It took him nothing. He was playing. I would say, what speed do you think he was playing in? Like 65%, 70%? He was definitely.
Oh yeah, I think too with KDB, and I don't think he's going to be fully the same off the rip because he rarely ever is. Like he normally, like as much as I love him, he's awful at times, like especially when he's coming back from injury. Yes. And I think it's more of like, because he's honestly one of the few players Pep's ever had where he basically is just like, you can do whatever you want. Like, Pep is so system regimented, cares so much about positional play, wants people to be in the right spot at all times, and then kind of lets KD just be like this like roaming, kind of marauding force, and just like, hey, play whatever ball you want. You have the talent. There's like barely been any other player in the history of the sport that kind of like put a ball like he can. And the downside of that is when you haven't played football in 6 or 7 months, is that those passes just kind of ping all over the place. And so I think you just kind of have to get those terrible passes and shots out. But so I would say he's probably at like 60 to 70%, but like I would say come February, March time, once he actually starts to get some full 90s under him, we start playing in Champions League again, I think is when it's going to be a problem for the rest of the league.
We have robots like Kevin, like Halan. They need to tinker, they need to calibrate, they need to, some of their joints actually aren't as oiled as they need to be. Maybe there's some like dust or like shavings in there that got to get cleaned out. It's once they get figured out and they're ready to go, those passes will be back. But you need that sometimes. You kind of need those crazy passes. And honestly, because of the fact that KDB is so talented, when those passes go awry, I can like laugh at them. I go, "Oh, Kevin, you're so silly. What were you doing?" But when it's like Calvin Phillips and he's on the pitch and he makes a bad pass, I'm like, "What are you doing? Pep, get him off the pitch. I know you just put him on.
Lots of goodwill earned. Lots of goodwill earned. Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of Calvin Phillips, I want to talk about his whole saga with Juve, that deal falling apart. I mean, I hated it in the first place, but now we got Newcastle, where that's where I thought he was going to go in the first place. Something is holding the deal up. Some say it's City stalling it until after the Newcastle match, but why would Pep worry about a week under Eddie Howe? Like, what? The other is Newcastle wants City to lower the loan fee since they are restricted financially at the moment. Dillon, what do you think is holding up the deal? Do you see Calvin killing it as a Magpie?
I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine that he would truly not want to move on. I know he just had a kid, and I think that it's actually a thing that isn't necessarily heightened around much. Is that like he might not want to necessarily move too much, even though Newcastle is granted only like a little bit further north into the country. I get maybe not necessarily him wanting to go all the way to Italy if that's the kind of case. Although I do think that actually a move overseas is sometimes really nice for these players. I think that you look at anytime you can go to a slightly less competitive league, a league that isn't as fast, especially in Italy. Like look at how well Pulisic is playing since he's gone there. Like it's a way that you can still shine. Now, granted, maybe he sees that like he might not get into Southgate's side if he's not playing in England, although he's barely played for City the last 2 years, and Gareth refuses to drop him anyways. But I'm not sure why he hasn't gone to Newcastle yet. They're a mess. They have no one. Like their whole team is injured.
Right.
Tonali's out, like suspended. That role for him is wide open, and I'm not maybe sure. Maybe it is something on the money side. Newcastle don't have the money for it. They're worried they're not going to make Champions League, and now they have to kind of start like finding, pinching some pennies together because the money's not going to look the same next year. But it seems weird as to why it hasn't at least happened yet, or there isn't at least like hey, he's going to have his medical, or this is going to happen, or this is going to happen.
Right. This is Calvin. He joined City for £43 million. Current evaluation for him on transfer market, it was €24 million. Say best case scenario happens for Phillips and Newcastle. Maybe he's scrounging a Europa Conference League spot. I know City are losing money in this deal. I get that. But as long as it's not Cancelo levels of L's, because let's be honest, we're gonna get IOUs written on post-it notes and pocket lint from Barcelona. What's the fee that you could see we get from Newcastle? Like if everything goes well, they find the money, they agree on a price.
I mean, if they get anything over 30 million, like that's a great bit of business. I can't imagine Newcastle. Like there's no reason any club would really need to spend that much more money. Yeah, he still has a decent amount of time left on his contract. He never plays, even when Rodri's out. He never plays. Pep apologized to him in a press conference. Pep literally was like, "I'm sorry, but he's just not he's not going to play." And it's crazy because I really did think that Phillips was going to be. I thought Phillips was going to be an amazing signing, and it just hasn't for whatever reason. It hasn't worked. And it's a thing of I just can't imagine that there's anything more. Like no team's going to pay 40 million for a player that's never playing. So 30 million, if we're lucky, honestly, might be closer to 20 or 25.
Oh, well, in George, one of his comments, will Newcastle sign any from Henderson? Or see, I'm getting ahead of myself. Will Newcastle sign anyone from Saudi, from Henderson? He's already saying, please save me. Please save me. What do you think? Is Newcastle gonna say, what's up? We got you, Henderson?
I'm curious. I think they have to do it kind of in a smart way. I think if all these Saudi league teams start buying, or signing players on crazy wages and then loaning them back to Newcastle, I definitely think that Granted, the Premier League and like FIFA have allowed it for now, but I think if there starts to be all of a sudden like you see like I don't think it's gonna happen, but like Benzema or other players start to like potentially get loaned out, or even if like ASM gets if he gets loaned back to Newcastle, I think that might start to cause some issues with like the multi-club ownership system. Granted, it's a little bit of like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube because they've already allowed it so far. And like City we do we don't do it to the same level with CFG, but I mean that's a thing where City potentially could then maybe try to do the same thing. They could go for Henderson. They need help in midfield. They need depth. Like you saw what injuries have. Granted, the injuries they have are pretty insane, but injuries have devastated this team. So I could see them potentially start to look to some of those Saudi Pro League teams and maybe try to make a move.
All right. And before we move on, let's get some more of this Dillon love. Joy. And Daniel. Sorry, we had one of our original castmates. His name is it's spelled Daniel, but his name is Danielle. So now I just butcher every Daniel. It's just a habit, so I apologize. Allison and Zachary. Look at it, just all the Dillon fan club. I love it. I love it so much. All right. Yeah, let's quickly do this. Kimmich, do you really believe he's coming in the summer?
It could be two ways. It could totally just be like total agent bait, like just him getting a new contract in Germany. And I would I would hate for that to be the case, is that he's like, the chance of this happening is just to be baited for Kimmich to get like a 300K deal. I think it would be an unbelievable signing. I know Fabrizio said it's 100% not going to happen in the winter, which I think makes perfect sense. There's no way that Bayern are going to allow arguably their most talented player to leave like in the middle of a season, especially when they might not win Bundesliga for the first time in a decade. But in the summer, I think if you were to slot him alongside Rodri, like if he could technically play in that right back spot, I think it would be unbelievable. And then have him kind of invert and move centrally alongside Rodri, give Rodri some depth, let that man actually take a rest after playing nonstop for so long. He's someone that I think that he would be unbelievable, knows Pep's system. I'm excited. Yeah.
Cool. I want to stick with this winger because Bernardo may or may not be leaving. But we have Oscar Bob and we have Micah. We have these players who could play in the right wing position. Like you said, Daku, Pep has hinted that he would prefer him on the right.
More than hinted.
Yes.
It seems like he can't stop telling them. He was like, he needs to learn how to play on the
right. he plays on the right on his national team and then previous teams. I don't understand why he can't play over here. I just don't get it. Yeah, so I really don't understand where people talk about bringing in Eze from Crystal Palace or even Elise from Crystal Palace. Do you see first team quality in our younger players? I guess Micah, it's been very small subject, but Oscar Bob really does seem like a quality player.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar Bob is, I think, unbelievable. I think he has shined in every single minute that he has played for us. He's so unbelievably talented on the ball, and just he moves by players so smoothly. It's honestly kind of crazy that he has just been in the EDS for so long. Michael Hamilton. I mean, I didn't really know much about Michael Hamilton until the Red Star match. Although to go there, to the way that he was able to have that kind of performance, in your first, hey, it's your first debut. Oh, hey, it's also in the Champions League, and against a team that is going to just kick you every single time that you even appear to be on the ball. He did great. And granted, maybe it's just because he was so full of adrenaline because it was his first ever, game. Granted, you saw the same thing with Rico Lewis. Rico Lewis kind of came out of nowhere, snuck into the summer, US tour, played great against Bayern, played great in his first UCL debut, and now is a regular member of the team. And he was not someone that was expected to be a guaranteed first team player. So we'll see with Hamilton. Bob, I definitely think so. As for Eze and Elise, I love that Palace team. They're not playing too hot right now, but I think those are two unbelievable players. I both think they would fit perfectly into the side. It just depends on if potentially they would want to move for him. I just don't know if they're going to be necessarily rating these like, mid-table Prem teams. We usually sometimes end up trying to take people, usually for the most part, from out of the Prem. So I am kind of curious to see if they do end up bringing those over. Winger is tricky because it feels like there's not a. It seems like that's the position that is most sought after in Europe right now. It's either like you are the absolute top of your game, like the Mbappes, the Vinnies, Leao, or it's like a lot of players where it really is like circumstantial. But I trust Pep that no matter who's going to play there, they're gonna figure it out.
All right. Well, before we move on, some more Dillon Love Fest, Carmen, and woo! I'm sure that's not what it was, but I'm gonna do it anyway because Yoni. See, don't forget for W. Give us something. I guess we're gonna talk about. Oscar Bob is wild. Great job, Dylan. Right? Sean Meehan. Look at this. Some familiar action over here.
My father has joined the chat.
Oh, I love this. Love this. Even my heart is warm right now. And what's up, Ellie? How's it going? Uh-oh.
Am I shaking?
Bad internet. No, that was me. That was all me. That was all me. All right. Let's get to the looking at the previous 5 matches for both squads. We will start with Newcastle. So Newcastle, they have been playing with key players injured or suspended. Only 1 win in their last 5. Losses to Liverpool, Nottingham Forest at home, Luton Town, and Tottenham. I guess I can understand that Tottenham, they are playing great football right now. Really, what can you say? What are your thoughts on them? Because we're about to play them, and after a woeful previous 5 matches, they have to be wanting to turn this around, right? And who else better than Manchester City?
And I mean, they've honestly, for the most part, have played fairly well against us for most of the time this season. I think, except for that first game at the start when we kind of got that first chance of Foden playing centrally. They absolutely were the better side in the game that Rodri was out a few months back. But I mean, the squad other than Joe Linton and Isak, they're out Tonali, they're out. They don't have their starting keeper. They're out Murphy, Barnes, Wilson. Wilson's out. Joe Linton just came out. It doesn't even matter necessarily how bad they want to play. They just don't have the players for it. And I think if I was just kind of curious when I was looking up, okay, who played when they beat us? 5 or 6 of the players that started that game are not going to be able to play. So, it's a thing of it just, I can't imagine Newcastle even trying to being able to put the stretch of games together. And I think that Forest, honestly, ever since firing their manager, they seem to be on that little kind of new manager kick. Luton aren't honestly terrible, despite the fact that they are a team that is so new to obviously it's the first time ever in the Prem. Their stadium is built into a neighborhood, so it's not exactly they're a borderline professional club, it feels like, but the way they've kind of made the jump. But I think that it's the main thing is it's the performances. I think that they, against top teams, they just have to sit back. And that's not the way that I think that they play well. And I don't think that's the way that Eddie Howe wants them to play, but they don't have the players right now to be able to compete with top teams.
I agree. I've joked when they got their ownership that they are oil brothers. Welcome to the oil family. They were doing great. So I was like, yeah, oil brothers, other oil sisters. They've been on a down run of form, and I've loosened our friendship, our connection. They currently are now sitting at oil third cousins. Maybe the cousin related through marriage. I really enjoy when I come over to your house because your fridge is always full and your mom just lets us eat snacks all the time and stuff like that. That's the kind of I like you guys. I wouldn't mind if we were closer, but it's just we're not right now because you guys aren't winning, and I don't want to tie us to a team that's not winning like that. We just won the trebles. We have to watch who we surround ourselves with. That's all I'm saying. So just use this as inspiration. Don't be bitter. Get better. How about that?
Yeah, I think it
That's
also it highlights that money really does not fix everything. I think it's a thing that City get the stick beated with. And I mean, whether it's Chelsea spending $1 billion in a year, United shelving out money left, right, and center. None of these teams are pushing for the league title. Newcastle, yeah, they did look good for a year, and then the moment they have to start playing, in Champions League, the moment they add, that 3 games a week into their schedule, they completely fall apart. Now we'll see. I'm sure they're going to be back. I don't think that they're just going to, with the money that they have, there's no way they're going to fall back to being a lower league table side. But, just because you have rich owners, and granted, the Newcastle owners are far richer than City's owners, but money can only get you so far.
especially with FFP all up on them, ever since the beginning. It's been insane, the hate that they've gotten, and I'm sure they don't appreciate it. Well, now let's look at our club, Manchester City. We've been really just handling business. You know the vibes. That's the struggle against Aston Villa. I don't know. I really enjoyed that match, even though we lost. I remember looking back at that match and being like, that was fun. That felt like a lesson that needed to be learned. And losing 1-0 is not as embarrassing as like a 3-1 defeat or something like that. Yeah. Other than that, we seem to figure things out. The Luton match was zany and insane. We seem to be getting in form. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about City's last 5 matches in the Premier League?
I mean, the Villa performance, legitimately, I actually think is the worst I've seen since Pep's first season. It was, and granted, there was enough players that was injured that it was fine. It almost felt like I was watching what it must feel like if I'm a fan watching my team play City. Like, it was total domination from Villa's standpoint, and I was like, I've never seen that. It was like, and other than like those 5 or 10 minute periods against like the early Klopp Liverpool teams where it's like City can't do anything except for it was for 90 minutes. Other than that, I mean, it was the comeback against Luton. It was great. The team has, I used to never expect a comeback win. The moment City would fall behind, even before Pep, and in the first few seasons of Pep as well, I was like, well, that's it. That's the game. In the last 3 or 4 years, they've gotten so much better of like, when they actually fall behind, they know how to get their way back out. Yes. And even against Palace, the performance against Palace was great. They fell asleep for a second, which led to the first goal. Foden loses the ball in midfield and then, makes the mistake to give the penalty. Granted, it was a draw, but they actually played well. I wasn't really too concerned about that. And yeah, they found a way to kind of get the wins against Everton as well. Another great comeback, and then Huddersfield. There's just no way. I mean, that was going to be a great performance regardless. And so I'm glad that the team is doing what they normally do around this time of the year. They put those stretch of wins in, and normally this is where we see them go on a 12, 15, 20 game winning streak, and propel them top of the table.
Let's get to predicting a starting 11. We will do this together because I am not really the best at this. And it's something I want to start dabbling more into, and it's really not that I'm not good at it. It's something that is just like Pep is good at Pep. It's Pep. I blame Pep because you think that you're just like, no, this lineup makes all the sense. This is perfect, because if they do this, like this person can do this, and then Pep does the complete opposite, and you're like, well, I'm here for a ride. But we're out here. First guess, easy one. Ederson, start.
Absolutely.
All right, and we'll go from defense. Left back, do you see Vardiol back in his spot?
I think so. It's a shame. I have honestly wanted to see Ake play more there. I think Ake has kind of been almost like put to the side. And I get, he spent $100 million on Vardiol. He's got to have to feature. But I think that he's probably going to go out there and get the start. Vardiol, not Ake.
Yeah. Well, who do you think is going to be in the left then? Like left center back.
I guess. Yeah. Well, I guess now that Akanji's going to be out, Stones is out, so I guess it'll probably be a mixture of all 3 of them then. So my guess is it'll probably then be Ake at left center back and then Diaz on the right.
Yes, Diaz on the right. I would agree. And Walker, our captain, he's back, right?
Yeah, I'd have to imagine he's gotten a rest. I don't think he's among the players that have been listed injured, or sorry, sick, I should say. I know that I
Yeah,
think
he is.
Bernardo's out and
He is.
like Phillips as well.
Yeah.
But as long as he's healthy, he's gotten a little bit of time off. I'm still a Kyle Walker. I won't say maybe defender. I know that he's kind of a lot of City fans kind of want him out of the club at this moment. I think that pace is still vital, especially late into the season and against top teams. He's going to hold that spot down for at least the rest of this year and maybe if not one more.
Hold on. More PowerPoint. Sir, these are actual videos. It's just the way that is distributed that it feels like a PowerPoint. So thank you. I think obviously I know you're just kidding. I'm just being dramatic. All the jokes in 2024. I was almost about to say 2026. I'm living in the future apparently. I also I'm hot and cold with Walker because I love him, and for better or worse, even the shenanigans that he gets into, I'm just like, oh, Kyle. I don't know. Ever since I saw that video of him doing the yoga pose with the trophies, I was just like, all right, that's all I needed to see. He's all in. The whole season's over. He's locked in. We got this. Like, there's no way if someone can hold focus and commitment and strength and like all of the things needed in a captain, that video went easily 10 seconds longer than it needed to. So like that's how I'm saying, oh no, he'll be able to focus in these matches. We're good. He's good.
Just less shots from 40 yards out. That'd be great. That's all I asked for.
Just that's all I think we're all asking. Like usually try to stay from generalities, but generally everyone is asking for less long shots. I agree. Rodri?
Definitely, I think so. He's gotten a rest. I definitely think he's going to get back in there. I think, granted, I don't think Newcastle will put much of a fight just because they don't have the roster for it. But I think you need him in there to keep everything calm.
Yeah, and who's going to be next to him?
As much as I love Nunez, I don't think that. I think Newcastle are going to like very similar, not to the same extent as Huddersfield. I think that Newcastle are going to sit back and they're going to try to counter. And I don't think Nunez fits well in there. I think Kovacic will probably fit in alongside next to Foden. I think Nunez will honestly maybe play against teams that are actually going to be a little bit maybe better, are going to go out and attack a little bit more. And Nunez is going to have to carry that ball forward. Whereas Kova's ability on the ball, he is still a great passer. He can dribble as well, but his passing in particular, I think, is going to give him that edge over Nunez.
All right. On the left, do you see Daku coming back or too soon?
I think it's going to be too soon. I don't think Grealish was too great against Huddersfield, to be honest. And I am a Grealish defender. I just don't think that Haaland is still probably out for at least the next few weeks. We finally have KDB and Doku back. I personally don't see them getting a full 90. Maybe he plays him for 45 and then swaps it for Grealish. But I think that Grealish is going to get the start. I'd rather see Doku on tired legs, anyways.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's again, if you're a Grealish sympathizer, let's put it that way. What is going on? Because he just goes left, and then never continues back really on his right. Is he that poor and that uncomfortable on his other foot? What do you think it is?
Because the confusing, I just don't understand why he doesn't cut in as much. Because when you look at his actual at Villa, he would cut in on his right all the time. And I mean, I think he's a right-footed player, but it seems that he almost seems to just never want to cut in as much. And he said that he doesn't want to lose the ball. He's said that he's he's afraid to lose the ball. I think at times he's gotten rid of that. You look at the performance against Bayern and against any of the top teams, even the Arsenal performance, things like that, United as well. He's played well in those moments, but it does feel like sometimes he'd rather just, maybe it's instructions too that Pep is like, hey, you're not gonna lose the ball, and you're just going to dribble down to the byline, cut it back, and just push the defense further in. I just don't think he spent $100 million on that. So I am a sympathizer. I am a Grealish sympathizer. I get if people want to see Joku play. Joku's electric on the ball. And I'm not here to say that he isn't. I feel like, or what my hope is that with how good Joku plays, Grealish has to step his game up too. And so I guess we'll see in the next like kind of 3-4 months what ends up happening.
Did you watch the video of Daku rating the dribblers? I was messy and shared his thoughts on Grealish, and he took his time and was very mindful, but was just like, even after he gave him the rating, he was just like, but I mean, he doesn't really take anybody on, so I can't really give him much. Like that's basically all it came down to. He's like, his timing is great, but he doesn't take anybody on, so I can't give him too high of a rating.
Yeah, I think C is a bit harsh, to be honest. But I think it is a thing. I do agree that in Villa, because in Villa he would take teams on. Like
Yes.
he would dribble past entire teams. It's a thing of that. I don't know what it is. It's why I almost want to defend Grealish and say it's instructions. Like I just feel Pep has to have like a gun to his head in the locker room. It's like you're just not going to lose the ball, because he isn't taking anyone on. Granted, the control is amazing, but yeah, he isn't. He doesn't have the same like bags of tricks that you would see like out of like out of Foden or Daku or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was, yeah. I thought it was hilarious. It was crazy. Obviously, he's seeing something in training. I thought when Daku came to City, that was going to be the inspiration Grealish needed to step his game up, and it honestly appeared that it did the complete opposite. It like destroyed his confidence, and that's where that video of Pep walking with him with his arm around him, and he's just like giving him a pep talk. See, you got it. Don't worry about Daku. I don't know. It's unfortunate. It was a lot. I know he'll figure it out because he's an incredibly talented man, and we paid $100 million for him to figure it out. No pressure. Let's get to a couple more of these comments before we move on. Yes, Kyle can stay because he's got the juice. Captain Kyle is fine. Less pressure while KDB loads up second in command. Very true. Arabelle says, hi, Dillon. And keep kicking it. There we go. Dillon appreciation gave it. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I'm always here for love. Everybody deserves all the love, especially when we get our guests. Grealish might be a little sluggish. Man, he handled those like a champ, and he's sweated that off by now. I don't know. Because I want us to win another treble so we can see it again, even though I'm sure he'll do it again. It just won't be as public.
I'm sure Grealish would love to do it again too. I don't think he will. He will not be afraid to throw a few back. Yeah.
Oh man, I just realized we haven't even finished. Right winger. Who do you think is going to be on there?
I would love to see Bob. I mean, because Bernardo's out, so I don't think it's going to be Micah Hamilton. Granted, I mean, not in a rude way. I don't know if we're going to see Micah Hamilton again this season, unless there's like a real injury crisis or a true maybe in like if the league is wrapped up by like late April and we have a couple games that are truly meaningless while we maybe rest for like the UCL semis or the final. I can't imagine Micah getting another start. So I think Bob had a great 90 minutes, and I expect to kind of see him maybe get that time again. This time against like some legit competition.
Haaland or is it gonna be Alvarez?
Is he back in training? Is Haaland back in training? Because I've been a little. I'm on vacation, so I've been a little less plugged into the news.
Pep has said he's been practicing for the last couple of days. He looks fine, but we will see. Hopeful.
Yeah, I think that especially because of Haaland's injury history, I feel like they're gonna really, really like kind of put the white gloves on him and only play him when he's truly ready. So unfortunately for Alvarez, who's just consistently played so much football over the last year, I think he's just gonna once again another 90 minutes on those really young legs for his career to be completely shot by the time he's 30.
So are you saying we're getting Ivan Toney?
Maybe, I guess. Potentially at this rate, we're going to need someone because I don't think Alvarez is going to want to stay at City much longer. I think he enjoys it. I think he's very appreciative. But I think if Real Madrid or Barca come calling, I think, yeah, not in a bad way. I just don't. I can't
Oh,
imagine that he's going to
yes.
want to be
You're gonna
back
say
up to
no to
Holland.
him.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I have heard there have been people who are saying the reason why Alvarez is playing as much as he is to show that City's invested in him. Pep is playing him knowing he has growing to do. And we're just going to go through his growth together because we want him to stay. We want him to get kind of comfortable in transition. If that is true and this is what we're doing, and potentially he's getting in the way of Foden for him to just leave next in 2 years to Real, I would be kind of annoyed. I would understand, yes, but I would be very annoyed.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on, I mean, how quickly KDB kind of like once KDB starts to lose his legs, granted, maybe then that might be a thing of where but I can't imagine Foden and Alvarez playing together centrally. That seems to be like a little bit too much. And maybe Foden's development over the next 6 to 12 months, he's a wildly different player. And we'll see. He's played so much better the past 5 games than he has honestly all season. But I honestly don't love Alvarez in that kind of like second striker role. At times it has worked, at times it's looked great, and at other times he's honestly kind of been a little anonymous. I don't think that's a fault to him. I think he's playing a role that is not his, it's not his main role. We'll see. Pep's way smarter. Like I've said, Pep knows more than I'll ever. And who am I to question him? But sometimes I just don't really know if it works out too much.
Okay, so we got Ederson, Vardiol, Ake, Diaz, Walker, Rodri, Kova, Grealish, Alvarez, Bob, and Alvarez. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I really want Bob. Sorry, I messed up when I was reading that. I'm just very excited. Because I think he's fantastic, and just overall having more just young melanated men with fantastic hair on the squad. It's just good for everything, Just, who doesn't like that?
Yeah,
okay.
he gets to join the Rico and Akanji level, and I mean Ake as well too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean his are a little less pristine and put together than like you can tell him and Daku, all of them, they probably go like twice a week and get their stuff retwisted and cleaned up and stuff.
I mean, I'm sure Bob doesn't even, I mean, once Bob starts making like 10, 20, 30K a week, I'm sure that's when we're going to start to see some of the that hair come out. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you saw with Alvarez when he first came to City, his he kind of had a little skin problem, and now it's been fantastic. That skin is glowing, and that is that money.
The World Cup and treble glow up. Oh yeah.
Oh man. Oh yeah, Grealish, he could pace himself on a treble too. Yes, I think instead of him raging for like 3 days in public, I think he's just going to be like slowly drinking and having a good time. He's just going to be hopping from island to island.
I think it'll be the opposite. I think it'll be even more. I think he'll be carried in this time instead of dragged. He'll be literally carried.
In fact, this time he plans it. He hires people to just carry him around. Like that is just going to be his thing. He's just going to be carried around with people, and it looks less weird because it's just going to be his shtick. I love it. I'm here to see it. Like, and Yoni, rooting for everybody black. Shout out to Issa. I want Bob's number buzzed on the side. Oh, that's great. The Sheik should send a mega yacht to the shores. Oh, well, that was the rumor that during the Club World Cup, they kicked it with him on one of his estates. In the photos.
Oh, I missed that. I didn't know that he leaves. Like he so rarely leaves the UAE. I missed that.
Well, I don't think he might have been there, but it was like it was like they were like he's welcoming them to one of his places, and maybe he did go to it or something like that, and I'm sure maybe none of it was visible, but it was something I read, and there were photos. If I can find the photo, because it's one of the City photographers, I want to say it might have been Tom Flathers. Like it was them playing volleyball, but with the soccer ball, and it's just on this lush grass court and it's perfectly manicured lawns around, but you can tell that it's also it was like the most surreal, beautiful thing I've ever seen. I was like, oh, yeah. They are in paradise. It was really cool to see. Really cool to see. Score predictions. If you're watching live, put in your score predictions in the comments. Dillon, how do you see this match going? What do you see the score ending?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I do think Newcastle always do play well against us, but with just the sheer amount of players they don't have, I don't see how this doesn't go anything, at least 3-0, I would say. Maybe Newcastle grabs a goal just because at times City have kind of been a mess defensively. But yeah, I'm going to say 3-0 to City.
Okay. I like that. Let's go. Wow. I was very timid. I was just going to say, I think like a 2-0, but I love a 3. If we get a 3, oh, boy, am I going to be
Send a message to the rest of the table.
Oh, got chills a little bit, my guy. That's exciting. Let's see. 2-0 City. 3-1. Man, I love clean sheets so much. There's just something about it. And that's what I'm saying. I'll take the 2 as long as they just focus on not allowing a goal. Because if we allow a goal, now I want like 4.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is. If we're going to allow a goal, then you need to up the attacking, because that's why we're giving up the goal. Another 3-1. And way to go, Dillon. I want to see more of this. Dillon, honestly, we can have you on, and I'm more welcome. And you're more than welcome to come on as often as you want.
I appreciate it. Can't wait.
Yes, please plug yourself, your socials, maybe something that you have coming out soon, or where people can find you.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is going to be on Twitter. It's just going to be it's my last name, but instead my last name was taken, so it's IVI instead of M. But it's just IVIEEHAN. Follow me on there. Happy to get to know some of y'all. Yeah, it probably looks kind of weird. I realize it's one of those things of I think it looks really cool, and I think for a lot of other people it might kind of just look ridiculous.
No, I'm just dumb. I'm real dumb. I'm not good at puns. I'm like it's a thing.
Yeah, so it's a thing of anyone on there follow me. If you like, I mean, obviously City, I'm big into film as well. So give me a follow on there. I'd love to connect with y'all.
Yes. All right, everybody. We Shades of Blue will be back for a kickoff show Saturday. The men play on Saturday, so we'll be doing a kickoff show for them. Then on Sunday, we got the women playing, so we have a kickoff show for their match against Durham. All that stuff will be in our socials. You can find us. This is our show. There's links to all that stuff somewhere. You know the vibes. Shady gang, shady gang, shady gang.